Hello everyone, this is Dave from Dave's Recent Things. Usually in my videos I like to coordinate my shirt with the theme of the day. Today is red and white, and what does that symbolize? Canada Day. Our Canada Day is on July 4th. I know a lot of my American viewers, your day is on July the 4th, which is your Independence Day. Ours here in Canada is on July 1st, and today we're going to celebrate the good old red and white, North Strong and Free, by creating a wreath using Canadian stores, Canadian suppliers. Number one, we are going to be using stuff from Unique in the Creek, which is a Ontario-operated supplier. I've used them many times before for a couple of years now. So we are going to be using all Canadian products today for our Canadian wreath. The method today? The curly loop method. Why don't I just get started and I'll show you what I made. As I mentioned earlier today in my intro, I am using products from my Canadian friends at uniqueinthecreek.com. You can always visit them at www.uniqueinthecreek.com. I am using their wreath board. This is a circular wreath board from Unique in the Creek along with some Deco poly mesh. This is 10 inch by 10 yard Deco poly mesh, and I'm going to use 2 full rolls. This little Canadian wooden sign that has little Canada right at the bottom, varying sizes and patterns of red, black, and white ribbon, some pipe cleaners that coordinate with our wreath, and of course my regular crafting utensils to create this project today. First thing I'm going to do is bring out my cutting mat, and I'm going to use my Rotary cutter to cut my Deco mesh. Now, if you don't have this, you can use a ruler and a pair of scissors. That works perfectly fine as well. You don't have to worry about it. And our magic number for the day is the number 10. So we are cutting our Deco mesh today at 10 inches. I'm just going to lay out my Deco mesh, and I'm going to cut at that 10 inch mark and at that 20 inch mark so I can cut 2 pieces at the same time. You can also overlap the Deco mesh and cut the 2 at the same time if you want. I'm just showing you one layer here right now. And for our Deco mesh cut lengths, I am using 10 inch by 10 yard poly Deco mesh. I'm using 2 rolls to create this wreath, and I'm cutting 64 pieces at 10 inches. And you're going to need about 17 yards of the Deco mesh. That's the reason why I'm using 2 rolls today. And I'm going to be creating bundles. So for each bundle, I'm using 4 pieces of our Deco mesh and 1 pipe cleaner. I'm just going to put 3 of them to the side, and I'm going to lay out my first piece. My manufactured edges are at the left and the right hand side. My cut edges are at the top and the bottom, and I'm going to have it curl facing up. All I'm going to do is I'm just going to start at the bottom, curl it in a little bit, and I'm going to roll that Deco mesh right to the end. And then we've created our first little tube, or I like to say a little cannoli. Then I'm just going to place it in between my 2 fingers to hold it right at the middle. Grab my second piece, again, curl side up, and then I'm going to curl the bottom, roll it up, place it in between my fingers. And I'm going to do that for 4 pieces of Deco mesh, which is going to create 1 bundle. And we have a total of 16 bundles. When you've got your first piece all done, just grab that pipe cleaner, twist it around the center, and we have our first bundle all made. Now, if you want, or if you're finding that you can't hold all that Deco mesh, there is a lot of Deco mesh when you do the 10 inch, you can do something different and you can use clips. So I'm going to do the same process, roll up that Deco mesh, and at the end I'm just going to grab a clip, place it over to the side. So that does free up my left hand a little bit, and it doesn't cramp up after a while holding all that Deco mesh. So another little process or procedure that you can use if you don't want to hold all that Deco mesh while you're rolling all of it up. So I'm doing my last one right now, and then I'm going to follow the same procedure. Just place them right in between my fingers, pushing them in there so I can create my bundles. Grab that pipe cleaner, find the middle, place it right around all of the Deco mesh, give it a couple of good twists, and you're all done. So again, we need 16 bundles with 4 pieces of Deco mesh in each. Here is the wreath board from Unique in the Creek. It's thin, it's made out of a plastic, and it has 3 rows. So it has an outer row, a middle row, and an inside row of holes, and they are spaced 3 holes in each little section. You'll notice there's 2 holes right at the top. What this is for is to hang your wreath. So those 2 holes right outside of that line of 3, that's how we're going to hang the wreath. And for me, I'm just going to grab a cable tie, feed it through 1 hole, then I'm going to feed it back through the other hole opposite of those 3 holes in a line, bring it together, and I'm just going to let it clip a couple of times. So you'll hear a couple of clicks, don't pull it all the way, cut off the excess, and now we have a way to hang our wreath. A great little tool so you don't have to worry about making holes. I love how this was designed. It's perfect. Now what we're going to be using is the inner row and the outer row, and we're going to ignore the middle row. So all those outside holes and all the inside holes is what we're going to be using to attach our bundles to. Here's our first little bundle that I'm taking. I'm going to open up my pipe cleaners a little bit, so it creates a little V shape. And then what I'm going to do is come right at the top, place the pipe cleaner in the outside hole, and then one on the inside hole like I'm showing you right here. We're ignoring that hole in the center. Then I'm going to pull it to the back. I'm going to make sure I'm not including our little loop there for hanging. I'm just going to keep that outside. And then I'm going to pull it tight, give it a couple of really good twists, and we've got our first bundle attached to our wreath board already. Take my scissors, cut off the excess, and now we're going to move on to the second one. So again, we're using the inside and the outside hole only. Take another bundle, open up that pipe cleaner, place it in the inside and the outside, pull it tight, and then you're just going to twist right at the back a couple of times to make sure it's nice and secure and it's not going to go anywhere. Once that's all done, grab my scissors, cut the excess off, and then I just keep moving on and moving on, adding those bundles on there. Here you can see I'm doing it face side down. It's a little bit easier, it moves a little bit faster, so you're not kind of moving it back and forth. And once I get my last one on there, I'm going to grab my glue gun. This is completely optional, you don't have to do it. I like to do it for myself just to make sure that those pipe cleaners don't go anywhere. So I just add a dab of glue over that little twisting area and where I cut those pipe cleaners. Then we flip it over and look at this. I love it. When I flipped it over, it's always my favorite part of wreath making is flipping over that base and just seeing how it looks. So of course I'm going to fluff it up a little bit. There's a couple of places you can see on the left hand side that I have to adjust a little bit, but overall, loving how this red and white deco mesh created this curly loop, beautiful base wreath. And moving on to making our bow, I'm going to take my 2.5 inch ribbon, measure out 14 inches. Then what I'm going to do is at that 14 inch mark, gather it together with my right hand. Then I'm going to take that and place it on my left hand. So I've created a tail that's 14 inches long. Then I'm going to take my left hand to the 0 mark on my ruler, measure out that 14 inches once again, gather it together, bring it to my left hand, and I've created our first loop. Then giving it a little twist in the center to ensure that the good side is facing up. Measure it again to 14 inches. Bring my fingers together or my hands together, and this time the loop is going to go at the bottom. So we have a loop at the bottom with a tail, and then we have a loop at the top as well. So we've created 2 loops so far, and then I'm going to continue making 3 more loops. So we're going to make a loop at the top, measure out 14 inches, make a loop at the bottom, and I'm going to do 5 loops for this wreath bow, and then we do 1 more loop at the top. Then we're going to measure out the 14 inches, grab my scissors, and cut it. That wasn't the greatest cut, but that's okay. We'll fix that later. Grab your pipe cleaner, twist it right around the center, and make sure it's nice and secure. I like to fluff up my bow just a little bit while I'm here. So this is the first segment that we're going to do. And like I said before, we're going to clean up those edges just by folding it in half, cutting on an angle, and then that creates a little dovetail. I'll put that aside, take out my 1.5 inch ribbon, and I'm going to do the exact same method, but this time I'm going to use 12 inches. So we're measuring out 12 inches first for the tail, then we're going to create 5 loops measuring out 12 inches, measure out 12 inches again for a tail. So we've got 2 tails and 5 loops. Grab another pipe cleaner, twist it around the center, give it a couple of really good twists so it's not going to go anywhere. I usually lay it flat, fluff it out a little bit, and then I'm going to dovetail. Now this is segment number 2 of our bow, and I'm going to do 4 segments in total. So the third one, exact same thing. I'm going to do 10 inches this time around, and I'm going to do 3 loops and 2 tails. So I'm going to measure out that 10 inches, gather it, bring it together, and then cut at the 10-inch mark for my last tail. Again, same procedure, grab that pipe cleaner, fluff it up a little bit, twist it, give it a really good twist so it doesn't go anywhere, and then we're going to put it off to the side. Lastly, I'm going to come back to that 2.5-inch ribbon, and this time I'm going to measure out 8 inches. I'm going to do a tail, 3 loops, and then another tail, all measuring that 8-inch mark. Here I'm just measuring out that 8 inches, cutting it, grabbing that pipe cleaner like we've done a couple of times before, adding it to the center, twisting it around a couple of times so it doesn't go anywhere. And you'll notice I didn't dovetail my last 2 segments, but I will do that later on. I didn't even listen to my own instructions. And all you're going to do is you're going to take your first segment and your second segment, attach it, wrap it around the back with that pipe cleaner, and then cut off the excess. And you see we have segment number 2 attached on the first one, and we're just building up our wreath. Now I'm going to fluff it up every time between each segment, adding that third segment on there like we did before, and then all we do is twist it at the back and cut off the excess, but we're not cutting the first segment's pipe cleaners. That's how we're going to attach it to our wreath. Our last segment, segment number 4, is going to go on. And here is where I discovered I didn't dovetail some of my ribbon. So I'm going to go back, dovetail that ribbon just to finish off those edges. And then I'm going to add that last segment on there, twist tying it right to the back, pulling it tight, twisting it, cutting off the excess, but leaving that excess from the first segment so we can attach it to the wreath. And again, here I found out that I didn't do the dovetail for my other ribbon, so I have to do that one as well. But that's okay. We can do it now. No biggie. And then, of course, I'm going to fluff it up a little bit, and we have our big, beautiful bow ready for our wreath. I'm also going to add some ribbon bundles, and I'm going to cut the ribbon at 14 inches. So I'm just going to take my ribbon that I just used for our bow, and I'm going to measure out 14 inches, and I'm going to cut 5 pieces for each of my ribbon. So I have 3 different kinds of ribbon. 2 of them are 1.5 inch, and 1 is 2.5 inches. And for each of them, I'm going to cut 5 at 14 inches. So that creates 5 bundles of 3. Then, once I've got everything cut, I am going to dovetail one more time, folding it in half, cutting on an angle. You can also fold it in half, then fold it widthwise, cut on an angle, and that'll cut both ends at the same time. You can also do 2 at a time. It saves a little bit of time as well, overlapping them, folding them, cutting them on an angle, and we have all of our ribbon dovetailed. Now I'm going to start with the 2.5 inch ribbon and place 2 of the 1.5 inch ribbon on a cross angle, find my center, and then I'm going to gather it right in the center, hold it with my left hand, use my right hand to grab a pipe cleaner, feed it through the center, and then we're going to give it a couple of really good twists to make sure it's nice and secure and that ribbon's not going to go anywhere. And that is our first of 5 bundles made of our little ribbons that we're going to attach to our wreath base. Like I said, I'm going to make a total of 5 of these ribbon bundles, and they're going to add just a little panache to our wreath as well. I'm loving that polka dot ribbon. Here is my wooden sign, and all I'm going to do is take 2 pipe cleaners, attach them on the back using some hot glue. I just put them right in that hot glue, use my little tool to push it in there, and I'm going to add a little bit of more hot glue right over top of that to make sure it's nice and secure and it's not going to go anywhere. Then I'm going to let that dry, and now we have all of our elements ready to attach to our base wreath. So my base wreath has come back, and now I'm just looking where I want to attach those attachments to. So I've got my ribbon bow here, and all I'm doing is I'm kind of feeding it right through the holes. I apologize, I got that off camera, But you can see here right at the bottom, I fed it through the 2 holes that we used similarly to add our Deco mesh bundles. Once it's all attached, I moved on to my sign. And again, I'm going to do the same thing. I'm just going to feed those pipe cleaners right through those holes that we used for our Deco mesh, the inside hole and the outside hole as well. And then you can see I'm pushing it through and then just giving it a couple of really good twists, seeing if that's good. I'm happy with that. Then I'm just going to twist those in place, make sure that they're not going to go anywhere. And then our final attachments are all of those ribbons. So again, the exact same thing. Push that pipe cleaner right through the back, feed them through the holes where you want those bundles. I did 5 bundles for this particular wreath. I didn't want to do any more because I really did want that red and white Deco mesh to shine as well. Normally I love a lot of ribbon on my wreaths, but this time I did hold back and only did a little bit of ribbon. Once that's all done, I'm going to come back with my glue gun and I'm going to add a little more glue on those attachments that I just attached. Again, this is totally optional. This is what I like to do for my wreaths to make sure everything's nice and secure, and we'll let that all dry before we move on. Let's flip it all over, and of course, you know what we're going to do next. We are going to fluff those bows. We're going to fluff those little ribbon bundles. And when I was fluffing, I noticed that the 2 long tails were just a touch too long. So I just decided to cut the excess off. And that's totally fine. You can do that as well. We always plan in our heads, and sometimes it doesn't work out. These were just a little bit too long for me, so I did cut them off. Those little holes in the signs, they drive me nuts. I don't know about you, but I like to cover them. So what I like to do is I like to take wooden beads and just cover them up. Here you can see I'm trying to grab that small red wooden bead. Beads were flying everywhere. Then I'm just going to take some hot glue and glue those over top of the holes just to cover the holes. I like to do this. It's not mandatory as well. It's optional. It's just a little something I like to do to finish off my wreaths. And then, of course, you know me, I'm going to fluff, fluff, fluff to my heart's content of our beautiful wreath. And here it is, our red, white, and black Hello Canada wreath. I love that sign. It was the inspiration for all of this today. I love that red and white deco mesh. It was that 10-inch deco mesh that I just love. And, of course, the wreath board I love working with. Again, all these materials are from Unique in the Creek, except for the sign. The sign came from a local Canadian dollar store called Dollarama, just all in its glory. And don't forget, all of those links are right down below for you to use and to visit and to see what kind of products you would love to get from Unique in the Creek. A little blooper reel to put a smile on your face today. Hello everyone, this is Dave from Dave's Recent Things. Alright, I don't know if you just, right off the gate, spit all over myself too. And I also do US coffee. Coffee always helps. I will be using, 3 out of 3. 0 out of 3, actually. Better way to do a Canada Day wreath than use all Canadian wholesaler. I almost had it. For everybody else, hello and welcome. Just because you're not arg. Deep breath in. Or you can use my affiliate code Dave10. And, oh my lord, Dave, and I also do have me scratching my ear distracted my voice, my thoughts. Oh boy. Test, test, test. 1, 2, 3. Test, test, test. Thank you so much for joining me today while I dedicated this wreath to my fellow Canadians out there and to Unique and the Creek. Don't forget to subscribe and hit that notification bell so you can be notified whenever I upload a new project. Thank you so much for watching. Take care. Bye for now.